This is the 8-inch infotainment system that you're going to find inside of the Nissan Sentra. There are technically two different options that are available though, so it's either going to be a smaller 7-inch screen or this larger 8-inch one instead, but they have virtually the exact same functionality. So I'm going to show you everything that you need to know. First thing is that you've got your volume rocker along the side, so you can toggle your audio on or off by pushing the button along the side there. There's a volume rocker, so you can adjust your volume that way. There's also a way to do it along the steering wheel on top of that. You've got a tuning rocker along the side, so if you wanted to seek between stations that way, you've got the flexibility to do it. Or
say a command.
Tune to 94.9 FM.
Tuning to 94.9 FM.
So there is a voice assistant available. Not the smartest voice assistant by any stretch, but it still is available there. So you can tune a few different ways if you want to. So you've got your phone, FM, AM, etc. along the side, but a few things that are going to be standard across the board. You're always going to have your time along the top right-hand side unless you're on this subscreen. So I've turned the audio off, which has brought up this basic menu. So you can then swipe between different menu options available as well. So this, I guess, technically will be the home screen. There is Android Auto, Apple CarPlay support, which I will show you. And then you can also customize the menu as well. So customizing, it's just a matter of doing a drag and drop in order to add different things in. So whether that's AM, FM, SiriusXM, and you can adjust all 3 pages. So if you wanted to adjust it out, you could, and then you could just reset it back to the factory default layout instead. And that's for these 3 individual menus. So if you wanted something a little bit more unique, you'd have the flexibility to be able to do it. So on the screen, I guess let's start with phone. So as of right now, there are no phones that are connected. Let's start off on the iPhone side of things. So what you're going to do on your phone, hop into Bluetooth, and you're waiting for My Sentra to pop up. There we go. Pin numbers match up, so let's pair. Would you like to have it as the favorite device? So if you have multiple phones connected, it's who gets connection priority. I'm going to say no to allowing my contacts and favorites to sync up because this is not my vehicle. But you can see there, fully connected now. You can go to your dial pad if you want to. And there's not too much to it. But I mean, if we were to swipe across to the side, you can look at your phone book, dial pad, there's sound volume beeps. You've also got quick dial available if you had favorites and things like that. So if you had hit yes when a message popped up on the screen, but this is a press vehicle, which is why I hit no there. On top of that, if we go to audio now, source, you now got a few different options. So you've got Bluetooth audio. And then if you're hooked up over Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you can also add those sources in on top of that. So lots of options available. And speaking of Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, let's set it up. So first thing I'm going to point out is that Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and the Sentra are going to be a USB connection. And you have to make sure that it's a USB cable with data support. So you can see the little data icon. You need to make sure that it has that icon or else it won't work. So ideally you're using the factory cable or something aftermarket. You're just going to insert into either 1 or 2, opposite end of the cable. You're just plugging yourself in. And it should take a second there. Look at that. And we are, so it said disconnected from the iPhone because it's disconnected from Bluetooth. And then it's hooked us up over Apple CarPlay through Wi-Fi. But along the outside there, you've got the current time, current connection level, which map was open last, which audio application was open last, which miscellaneous application was open last, and then you've got your little icon view. So you can go icon view, back to the home screen, and then you can swipe across, and it's fairly responsive too, which is great. So you can go home, you've got the map that was open last, you can search if you've got audio playing, and then your miscellaneous. So I've got a calendar event coming up, letting me know I've got to rock and roll. And back out. So it's very straightforward, but you've got support now for Google Maps, Apple Maps, and Waze. And there's no pinch to zoom capability on the Apple side of things. So it's strictly going to be the plus minus options there. So you can go out, zoom in and out that way if you want to. On Google Maps, you can search for addresses there. You can go and avoid certain things on the route. So if you wanted to avoid highways, toll roads, and ferries, you've got that flexibility. You can change out the map color, you look at traffic, north up, etc. And then Waze users, it's the same idea. So you can search for addresses. You can push this in order to zoom in and out as well. And then if something was coming up on the road, you could let people know of police, traffic, things like that. That's one of the things that I like about Waze is that you've got a little bit of flexibility there to give people a heads up. But I mean, audio, you've got YouTube Music. There are so many different options. Even though some things like VLC and YouTube are there, it's strictly audio. So this screen does not have video playback support whatsoever, I should say. So unfortunately, no video playback. One thing you could do though, if you do a push and hold on the steering wheel, you can activate your Siri assistant that way as well, which is great. You've got podcasts that are available inside the vehicle. Library apps like Live One is a radio app. You've got Hoopla, which is a library app. So you've got a ton of different options that are available inside of the screen. It's great. Then you've got a little bit of flexibility as well. So on your phone, if you go into your general settings, if you search for CarPlay, find the vehicle, you can forget it, you can customize, and then you can allow while locked. But what we want to do is customize. So you're just going to push and hold, and you can do a little drag and drop there. So if you didn't want your calendar on there, you could delete it. You didn't want audiobooks, and that fully removes it from the screen. It saves it on the phone though, so you can just hit the plus icon if you wanted to add it back in. And if you've made too many changes, you're not a fan of what you've done, along the top right, you've got a reset, and it's just going to bring you back to your factory default screen there instead. But I mean, there are so many different apps that are available on the Apple side of things. But like I said, as of right now, no video playback. That's the one thing that I'd like to see. And then you can swipe back across there. So it's straightforward. You can push the little menu button along the very bottom there if you wanted to get back to your main home screen there instead. Then you can swipe across to any of these options, hop back into CarPlay that way, button press, or right along the very bottom. So you can get back into it a few different ways if you want to. If you hit settings there, you've got your phone that's grayed out because you're hooked up over CarPlay. So if you disconnect from USB, you've got your phone connected now, and you've got all of your basic options again for your phone. And that's the iPhone that we've got set up here. So I know that's a little bit of info, but that's how you set up Apple devices inside of the Nissan Sentra. Setting up an Android device is the exact same process. So if you weren't on this screen, you could hit the phone button there, but don't forget, we're still connected to the old phone. So if you go to connections along the very bottom now, you've got the iPhone that's currently connected. And what we want to do is just simply add new. So on the phone, you're just going to make sure that you jump into your Bluetooth and you're waiting for My Sentra to show up. Perfect. PIN numbers match up, so we're just going to hit OK. Would you like? Yes. So as of right now, because there are two phones connected now, it's who gets connection priority. And you can kind of do a mix and match here. So if you wanted to have one phone set up for your phone calls and audio, you could do that. You could have one phone set up for phone calls, one phone set up for audio. So you can kind of do a little bit of a mix and match there instead, which is kind of neat. You can push the little icon view there instead to get to some other options. USB, nothing connected. Apps, all of the different phones that have been connected previously as well. But you can see there it's starred out, so that's now our favorite phone. It's asking me on the device, do I want to allow access to my messages? Definitely say no to that one, just because this is a press vehicle. But the phone is connected, so I could go, actually, I could push the little phone icon there even, and then can go to the dial pad and things like that. So the phone is currently connected. So you could dial through if you wanted to. And then very similar to the iPhone side of things, Android devices are also USB for Android Auto. Again, make sure that you've got that data connection cable. Plugging yourself in, opposite end of the cable, plugging yourself in there, and just going to give it a second. There we go. And okay. Would you like to use Android Auto with this device? Yes, we want to make sure that we do that. And actually on the phone now, it's giving me, I need to make that cable longer. There we go. Android Auto would like to, so we're just going to connect through there. Okay, and it should take a second there. Connecting, Bueller. Ah, there we go. Then we are now fully connected to Android Auto. So same idea, nice full screen available there. You've got your kind of little split view here, which is neat, but along the bottom tray, you've also got your little icon view instead. You can go back to the screen. You could search this way instead if you want to. Similar to the iPhone side of things, push and hold that voice command prompt to activate your Google Assistant that way. You've got maps, your phone, settings, and then all of your basic info for your phone as well. If you wanted to go fuller screen map, if you hit the map icon there, stretches you across full screen. And one nice thing about the Android Auto side of things is that maps are full pinch to zoom capability, which is great. You could push the little settings icon along the top if you wanted to avoid route options, so avoid highways, toll roads, ferries, things like that. And then back out to the other screen, back to the icon view. Now, This phone does have Waze installed, but I mean, as you can see there, Waze is not currently showing up as an available option. So if that's your case, so if Waze is not showing up, I have put together a little walkthrough video explaining how it works and how you can actually add Waze through the screen. You can find that walkthrough video down in the description of this video. But very similar to the Apple side of things, on the phone, if you search for Android Auto, you can customize some things. So you can look at previously connected cars, you could customize the launcher, Google detection devices, and things like that. Like, there are a lot of things that you can do here. We want to customize the launcher. But one thing to note is that it's not dynamic the same way it was on the iPhone side. So you can do a push and hold if you wanted to adjust things, but it's not dynamic, so it's not updating it. In order to actually have it update, you just have to disconnect, and then I'm going to reconnect there. It's going to take a second. Fully connected again, back to the icon view, and the changes that we've made have now come into effect on the screen. So it would be nice if Android Auto was also dynamic, but you still do have the flexibility to customize the screen a little bit to make it your own if you wanted to. You could hop back home to the menu screen there. You can go into settings, go into connections a few different ways if you want to, and let's do a few things. So I'm just going to disconnect from Android Auto. And as I mentioned, you can kind of do a mix and match. So you can either be hooked up to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, not both, but you could do a mix and match of any of these. So like I said, you could have one phone for your phone calls, one for your music, and kind of do a mix and match that way. If you push the little icon view, you can then delete devices. So deleting, and the iPhone's been deleted. And same idea for the Samsung. So let's get that one deleted as well. Takes a second, but there we go. You can go through all of your options or just delete, and yes. And it's deleted everything from the vehicle. So it's that easy setting up Android and iPhone devices inside of the Nissan Sentra. Okay, up along the top, you've got USB. So if you were connected over USB, you'd have that option. And then you've got all of the phones that have been connected previously, as I mentioned. You can hit this little button in order to show a few more things. So you could toggle Bluetooth on or off, allow multiple phones simultaneously. So if you had an iPhone and an Android device, you can have them both connected over Bluetooth for phone calls. And then you can have essentially connection priority as well, but you can let both phones be connected at the same time. You can have a favorite phone selected, favorite audio selected, and you can also adjust your vehicle name. So if you're not a fan of having it as My Center, you want Bob's Ride, Sally's Ride, whatever the case may be, you can set it up that way and select your own unique PIN as well. But that's the basics of phone. It's very straightforward, available there. And as you can see, you've got different menus across the board, which I did show you earlier, you can customize. But let's go into our audio now. And audio, you've got the option for AM, FM, SiriusXM. If you had a USB stick with MP3s on it, that would be available as an option. You've got Bluetooth audio. There's an aux cable jack available as well. Or you can listen to audio through Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. It's actually kind of ridiculous. So let's go to FM for a second. And FM menu. You've got all of the available stations based off of your geographic location. You could scan as well. So it essentially is going to scan through to different stations for you. You can look at radio text if that info was available, and you can refresh the list. So where that comes into play is if you're new to an area and you're not sure what you could listen to, refresh list, and that's going to show you all of the available stations based off of where you live. And then you can just push through. In order to save one of these as a preset, so you've got all of your available preset pages there. And I mean, there are a boatload of different pages available. But if you wanted to overwrite one, you could just do a push and hold. Heard that little chime, and it saved the preset in for us. FM menu again gets you back to the basics. And sources, let's go to SiriusXM because there are a few other things. So your source, you've got a SiriusXM menu, and I mean, so many other things. You can look at the full channel list that's available, so very similar to AM, FM. You can direct tune this way, so if you knew the station that you wanted to listen to, you can also tag the artist or tag the song, which is useful because if the song or the artist comes on, it can give you a heads up and let you know that either one has started to play. You could, let's see, anything exciting, edit your favorite artists, your songs. You can get notification settings. Do you want to tune to start, yay or nay? You've got traffic and weather available there as well if you had an active SiriusXM subscription. And then sources, AM is going to be the same idea. So you're going to have a few extra options available depending on the source connected. Like if we hook up a USB stick for a second, and this has MP3s on it as well as video, but like I said, this screen unfortunately doesn't have video playback. But if you go through sources, USB menu, you've got playlists, artists, albums, songs, composers, etc. So there are a series of options available, and you can move through all of the options. We just hit one of these, So it's kind of nice. If you wanted to shuffle, you've got the flexibility, repeat, whatever the case may be. So it's nice that there are so many different options that are available inside of the vehicle specifically for audio. It's actually pretty nice. Cool. And then back home, so you've got AM, FM, SiriusXM, Bluetooth audio, USB, and then a series of different settings that are available. Connections, we've already seen. Clock, you can adjust that way. So on-screen clock, yay or nay. Do you want that showing up? Do you want to be in the military time instead? So 24-hour mode. And how do you want your date and time showing? That's kind of neat. So many options. Month, day, year, month, day, etc. So you can really customize it yourself. And you can also set the clock manually if you want to. So if you're kind of straddling, actually that's even really off right there, we're 2024 right now. And I'm pretty sure we are in April, and it's what, the 22nd right now. Wow. All right, so we're gonna go April off by just a little bit. Nope, 22nd, that's good. And timing is at least right there. Perfect. All right, so we're now set up perfectly for the clock. You've got phone, which is grayed out because there are no phones connected. You can get to the option of customizing the home screen there again if you wanted to. So it is kind of nice. You've got the flexibility to customize these screens a few different ways. I like it. Moving back, you've got different sound settings. Yeah, so this is a pretty good setup. So you want your bass typically cranked by a few points, like 2, 3, maybe 4 points. Treble up 1 or 2 I found is good audio in the vehicle. And then do you want to focus on the driver, passenger, the rear, or the front of the vehicle? And then speed sensitive volume, so it's automatically going to raise the volume if you start to go a little bit fast. Customize all the available sources as well. So as you can see there, all the options along the bottom. If you wanted to have one of the other options down there, you could just do a drag and drop to replace. And that's the same for all of these. So if you wanted to have aux down there, CarPlay down there instead, you've got the flexibility to kind of customize the tray along the bottom, which is kind of neat. Volumes and beeps, your audio volume, you can control it this way or through the screen there. If you get a ring, so if you've got a phone call incoming, what ringtone do you want to have the volume set for? Button beeps. Oh, I can see why that's disabled. You've got the flexibility of enabling or disabling that beep. That's old school. Wowzers. All right, and then you've also got system voice. So when you push the voice command prompt on the steering wheel,
Say a command.
that's the actual voice assistant. So you've got the
Voice recognition.
you've got the flexibility of adjusting a few things. So the initial prompt, I always recommend turning that one off. And then short voice prompts, you want that on. Best matches, nothing exciting there. Audio device settings, do you want it to be able to essentially look through your devices in order to see what audio settings are available? And then do you want a male or female voice? How fast or slow do you want them to speak? So actually let's try this.
Sample.
Tune to 94.9 FM.
Tuning to 94.9 FM.
So it's straightforward to actually be able to use the setup, that assistant inside the vehicle. So your system voice there. Options for camera, display settings is the big one there. So you can adjust your brightness, contrast, tint, black levels, and things like that. There's a button down the screen on the very bottom. You can button press that in order to get to your camera as well. Not gonna lie, the backup camera inside the vehicle, the quality is not the greatest, but you do have the option for a full 360 camera. So because this is the option with the surround monitor, so the 360 cam, you've got your side mounted cameras and your backup and your forward facing camera there. If you didn't have the 360 view, the backup camera would just be stretched across the entire screen there instead. You can kind of do individual side views instead. Moving back, a few other options. Display, you can turn the display off if you want to. You can actually do that a few different ways. So the button along the very bottom there, so you can resume, but I'll get to the buttons in a second, but they're kind of neat what you can do. Brightness, you can adjust the screen brightness this way. You can adjust the contrast and the black levels as well. So if you wanted it darker, lighter, whatever the case may be. Your language, do you want to be either English, French, or Spanish? And that's going to be region specific. I'm in North America, which is why there are the 3 languages. Measurement units, do you want to be in kilometers or miles? And then you've also got the option for Celsius or Fahrenheit on top of that. But one of the neat things about having the measurement units there is that as you change the measurements out, it actually changes up what's going on inside of the cluster screen as well. So it is useful. It's obviously not going to change the speed along the tachometer, or the speedometer, I should say, but it at least changes out the digital speed for you instead. But that's kind of neat. And then moving back out, you've got your ABCD versus your QWERTY keyboard, and then bring everything back to the factory defaults there. And then apps, switch. I mean, we don't have any phones connected, so it's not going to matter there as well. And then along the very bottom, you've got a few other buttons. So you've got this one in order to go between a day or a night mode if you wanted to. So super bright versus nighttime view. And then you could do a longer press and hold if you wanted to toggle the display off. So you find it too distracting, you can turn it off. You can't actually just touch in order to bring it back to life. You've got to push in order to bring the screen back to life again. So it takes a second or so. Do I have to push for longer? Perfect, and we've resumed display. So it is kind of nice that you've got the flexibility to adjust this out. You can also tune stations this way instead. As you can see there, jumping between all of the available stations that way. You can hot button press to get to your audio tab there, and then button press in order to get into your sources. Push this in order to get back to this main menu, and then cycle between the active pages there. If you've got a phone connected, you could push there in order to launch into your phone. Push this in order to get to your camera, and then you've got a basic back button there as well. So it's kind of nice, but I know that's quite a lot of information, but that's everything you need to know about the infotainment system inside of the Nissan Sentra.